Welcome to Carly's Colorful Corner, where you will learn how to paint an adorable, beautiful swan using watercolor. For today, we will be specializing in the art of making colors glow. For this technique, you will need a thin brush, one where you can comfortably outline your swan's body using a nice thin line of dark color. To get this dark color, you're going to want a damp brush, not too wet, not too dry, damp. Then you're going to choose the color of your choice for your swan's body, lather up the edge of that damp brush with paint, and then begin outlining just the outside of the swan's body. Continue to do this until you start running out of paint. Once you start running out of paint, I want you to switch to a clean, medium-sized flat brush, one that will fit nicely between both edges or in between the lines of your swan's neck. Get this puppy damp and then start carefully pulling some of that thick dark color that you've placed on your paper. Start pulling it in towards the swan's body. You're going to want to leave some white in the middle of the swan. This white will make that color glow vibrantly. This is because you have a really light background surrounding your soft color. And then you also have a really dark line outlining it on the other side. Now, if you feel like the color that you've just pulled in from your previous outline is still a little too dark, you can lift some of that color and spread it to other areas of the paper if you choose to do so. However, you could also clean off your brush a little bit more and go back to the paper with it being damp and then pull that second layer of color that you kind of dragged into the body of the bird. Do another layer further into the center of the body, and that way you'll kind of have like a gobstopper effect. You'll have dark blue, medium blue, light blue, and then a very stark white. This will give you kind of like a gradient effect and will kind of make your colors glow even more with a gradual sense of vibrancy. Totally up to you. You don't have to if you don't want to. But let's continue this process that we've just done here. Let's continue it throughout the bird's body. I want you to focus on one section at a time, working from top to bottom. So same rule applies. When you start doing the outline again, don't revisit your palette after your paint starts drying out. Instead, or running out. Instead, I want you to move on to step 2 with the flat, clean, damp wash brush and start dragging that color in. Specifically because if you do the entire outline before you do this next process, your paint is going to dry and it's going to make it super hard for you to drag that color in to get that glowy effect. So work it one section at a time. Now, this lesson has a fade out and fade in sequence. As I'm talking, I'm going to give you a peek at how I'm doing the rest of the outline of the body, how I'm dragging that color in. That way you can kind of get a completed visual of from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. So if you are not ready to move on to the next step, that is okay. Pause this video, catch up, and then we will begin the next section, which will be the wing of the bird itself. Now the wing of the bird is quite simple. You kind of just repeat what you've done with the body of the bird with the oval kind of shape of the bird's wingspan, and then you drag the color in. But then you're going to kind of want to take some bold streaks of line in the middle of your oval for the feather lines. Your top streak should be longer than your bottom streak because the feathers that go higher up are going to be longer because those are the flight feathers. And then when you go a step down, your next line of feathers will be just a little bit smaller than the second set of feathers. You get to choose how many lines or how many feather lines you want to put in your wings. That is totally up to you. This is your art, your choice. But you are going to basically repeat the glowing technique that we've learned at the beginning of class throughout the swan's body. However, for the feather streaks themselves, you won't necessarily need to do the glowy effect because the lines are so close together and you're adding detailed strokes to your swan's wingspan. Once you're done with the swan's body, let's give it some time to dry. In the meantime, let's kind of work on adding the water underneath the swan's stomach. I'm going to add kind of like some green, maybe some dark green. Make sure that I lather up a lot of paint on the end of my brush to emphasize the darkness within the green in which I am seeking. And I'm going to put that underneath the body of the bird itself because we're going to have the bird's shadow kind of being cast off onto the water, and then the underside of the bird's body is also creating a shadow. So you almost kind of have like a double shadow here. So I'm going to use a darker color, but I want to stick with the cool color kind of theme here that I'm aiming for. So I am going to use green, and I don't want to use blue because I kind of want the bird to pop out from the water, and I'm afraid if I use blue, then the bird will almost look as if it's sinking into the water and kind of fading from view. So you decide what color you want. Just make sure that the underside of the bird and near the bird's body is a lot darker than the water that's away from the bird's body. As you get further out from the bird's body, you're going to want to lighten up that color. So I would actually add a little bit of water to the color that you already have on your brush and start making some wide sloping streaks of color that are branching off from your center or your core shadow that you have within the water itself. Now, if you want, you can add little streaks of dark green as well to kind of create a ripple effect. Totally up to you, your art, your choice. But I would definitely alter or vary the line quality here and also the intensity of greens. So you might want some light and some dark greens, a little bit of that white popping through. This is where you kind of want to do a little play with the shadows. And you can do that by switching between intensity of color and allowing bits of white to peep through to give the illusion that the color is lighter than what it actually is. Totally up to you on how you want to do your water. This is just a suggestion on how to get that kind of realistic piece that you might be aiming for. As we were working on the water, we were giving our swan's body a chance to dry so we can safely start adding details near the swan's head and face. So now that that's done, let's repeat what we did in step one. with whatever color you've chosen for the crown or tiara of your swan. Now, if you didn't choose a tiara or a crown, then feel free to skip this step. If you chose something else, feel free to use whatever color you need. Last but not least, we are going to add details to the eyes and to the beak. I am going to repeat what I have also done in step 1 where we outline and drag in. I am going to do that with the eyes and the beak for my piece. If you want to color them in completely without having the glowy effect, that is totally up to you, your art, your choice. For the hearts, I used a dry on dry technique. It's the same technique that we used for the outline, except for we're not dragging any of the color in. I waited for the heart to dry a little bit and then I outlined it, or I did the inner part of the heart with a very pale blue pastel. And I also added some more detail to the water by adding a pale green pastel. Doing this to add texture. It's not necessary, it's totally up to you, but that is how you can also add texture to your piece. And that, my friend, is how you make an adorable, beautiful queen swan using watercolor.